Welcome to another episode of Corporate CPR, where we breathe life back into your organization, projects, and processes, giving you insights to recovery and avoiding corporate mortality events. Today, we'll be talking about how you're doing social media wrong, and joining us to contribute to the conversation is Katie Brinkley. Welcome, Katie.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
We're excited to have you. Can you tell our audience a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I have been helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, and coaches and consultants with their social media strategy for almost 2 decades now. And whenever I say that, I feel really old. But I started by helping bands with their MySpace pages, how they could optimize their MySpace and use it to get more airtime on the radio. So that's when I got started. But being a social media anything didn't exist 18 years ago. So I actually went through college and got my degree in journalism, and I was a former broadcaster for the Denver Broncos, Colorado Rockies, and Denver Nuggets here in Denver. So I started my career in journalism, moved into marketing, and again, social media was just kind of an in addition to. And it wasn't until 6 years ago that I decided to go all in on it, and I started my own social media agency. That's what I do now is I get to, as one of my coworkers back at back at the office said one time, she's like, "It's so lucky you just get to play on Facebook all day." And I'm like, "Well, kind of, but there's a little bit more than to it than that."
You know, I think obviously there's been a trend recently where people, organizations are getting more, I guess, reluctantly realizing they have to have a social media plan of some sort. But there are still brands out there that don't have anything. What is that? I mean, what are the implications of that?
Oh man. Yeah, and I think that it's one of those things where when I got started with it, it was always a nice to have, like, oh, you should be on Facebook. But now, and especially after the pandemic, we've all kind of realized how important having some sort of an online presence is. If you're a brick and mortar store, if you're an online business, you have to have some sort of a presence online. And social media, those websites get indexed on Google just like your other website does too. So having that presence on social media is extremely important.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so, I think the other thing that is prevalent across our you know, the times we're living in now is everything moves really quickly.
Mhm.
There's always things picking up, new places to, from a social media perspective, new places to join or test out. But just in the nature of being in such a digital era, um, change is constant and it's rapid. And so, talk to me a little bit about what some of those things are that maybe we were doing 5 years ago on social media um, that aren't going to get us the same results as they were back then.
Yeah, then and there's a lot of social media platforms out there too. So I mean, it's one of the tricky things is all these social media platforms are continuing to bring out new features and new updates, and there's new platforms coming out every day. And whether it's Facebook launching audio rooms or Instagram launching 3 feeds, goodness, it is a full-time job to stay up to date with all the updates of social media. And I think that one of the biggest things is figuring out which social media platforms your ideal client and customers are on, and paying attention to all the different features that that platform has to offer. So if Instagram is your jam, if that's where you enjoy finding clients, is where you enjoy engaging, there's a number of ways to interact and engage on it. And you do need to make sure that you're checking all the boxes with the way that you push out content on these social media platforms. I know that for me, my favorite, but the best platforms for me are Instagram and LinkedIn. But I mean, it's not to say that Facebook is dead. There's still a huge audience on Facebook. It's the biggest social media platform out there. And there's different features for Facebook that you can utilize. So you do need to see which platforms make the most sense for your business and try to show up on those platforms the right way so that you can give your audience the way that they consume content best, make sure that you show up and give them that content.
Hmm. I have a feeling the right way is a little bit loaded. It's probably easier than it sounds. So do you want to talk a little bit about like how you determine how you show up and what
Well,
that
and
looks
well, Jen, I mean, I'm curious. So which is your favorite social media platform?
like? To use Instagram.
So if if you think about Instagram and how you engage on it, there's a lot of different things that are flashing through you as you scroll. It's sometimes it's a single image, sometimes it's a carousel post. Then all of a sudden you might see it's someone dancing and pointing and all these different things. But that's everyone consumes content differently. And I
Hmm.
I have a number of clients, I get to see a lot of Instagram feeds. And so my feed is full of a lot of carousel posts. That's the way that I consume content the best. I enjoy, hitting that little flip and seeing the next slide. Those are posts that I enjoy seeing. Now, one of my clients, she's a home organizer. That girl loves her reels. I have not seen a carousel post or just a regular image on her feed in months. All I see on her home feed is reels. So you do need to make sure that you're checking all the boxes on how your ideal client and customer will show up. So for me, I make sure that I do one single image post, one carousel post, and one reel a week. That's it, really. And then I do throw in like an Instagram live in there on every other week. But that way I can make sure I check all the boxes of how each person might prefer to see their content. So again, if Kim wants to see a reel and she's scrolling through her feed, my reel might pop up, but it's 3 days old, but she'll still see my reel. Whereas,
Mm.
maybe you enjoy seeing the single images and reading a nice story and a long caption. I can make sure that I
Mm.
check the box with you on how I provide that content to you. So I'm not saying just go all in and do all reels. I'm not saying to do all carousel posts. Show up all the different ways that that platform has to offer because everyone consumes content differently.
Mm. Absolutely. One of the things that I've thought some about, and would be curious of your thoughts is, when you have a product or you have something that's a very visual thing, it can be fairly easy to correlate how I'm going to put that on social media because, you can do, like even like a realtor, right? Showing different tips about how to put your house on the market or like what are the no-nos or things like that. So, there's a real obvious correlation. But I think some of the services, when you think of like your large consulting companies or a law firm, other than like, here's our tips, like, which it can get kind of boring. What are your thoughts on like, what have you seen that those type of companies are really making a splash? How
Well,
are they making a splash?
well, and I mean, like that's just where it comes down to different content pillars, and that's a kind of a common buzz phrase right now. I feel like is content pillars, but it does make it easier for you to show up and not just be giving tips or selling all the time. So just going off of your realtor example, you don't want to just show up and have a whole bunch of just listed, just sold, cool, uh, good for you. But if you can show up and become the mayor of your town, so give people an insight of the walkability score of that home. So maybe take your audience on a Instagram live and walk to the park with your dog, and you say, "Look, I'm walking from 123 Main Street to the local dog park. It's 1 block away. Join us as we head on over there." And you can show some of the surrounding areas of what that house has to offer, and you bring in a little bit of your personal life because you're going there with your dog. So I love the idea of showing up on, like I said, a live this way, and having the opportunity to really give your audience the opportunity to get to know you a little bit. I think that is another huge mistake I see is, I know that we spend all this money on logos and brand kits, but people want to do business with people. And if you can, whether you're a law firm or a brokerage, there's people that are all working there. And whether it's one person that shows up as the face of the company, or if you take turns and hand off the duties of, okay, well, now it's Jim's turn to be in charge of the social account. He's going to take everyone on a walkthrough of the latest listing, or he's going to do a quick reel on, the latest mortgage trends, or home buyer misunderstandings or something. So everyone has the opportunity to show up, give the business a face to the business, so people can know who they're working with, and everyone wants to do business with a friend, right? So if you have a face that goes along with it, you're going to feel more of that know, like, and trust factor.
Mm. What are some of the pitfalls that you see companies, fall into when they're trying to execute on social media strategy?
Not having one.
You
I
knew that
think
was gonna
that,
be the answer.
yeah, I know, right? Here's the softball, Katie. Yeah, knock it out of the park. But no, I think that is the biggest thing, is you do need to have somewhat of a strategy. And it can seem overwhelming because there's a lot of content creators out there that are giving away free advice, and posting on social media as a content creator versus posting on social media as a business are two very different things. And I don't know about you, but I mean, I have a business to run. And yes, I get that it's in social media, but I'm not a content creator. I have a business to run. I run content for a lot of people. And I know I'm not alone with that. And that's one of the biggest things, is I think a lot of business owners get discouraged thinking that they need to post daily to every single social media platform known to mankind. And they get burnt out because they're really just projecting a message of white noise to an audience that's really not listening. And so having that strategy of 3 to 4 times a week, showing up the different ways that platform allows you to show up, and checking those boxes is a huge weight off your shoulders. Consistency is the best strategy. Notice I didn't say posting constantly, but posting consistently is the best way for you to build that audience and build that know, like, and trust factor.
How so let's talk a little bit about, I guess how you come across social media, like your voice, so to speak, and I think that can be maybe really challenging to. Um, I guess we could go in this a few angles. One, it's challenging maybe to figure out how personal to be, because there are a lot of companies that are doing a little more of, the day in the life type of, I don't know, arrangement or something like that. And they're getting really personal, or a person talking about how they had a bad day. And it's not necessarily completely work related. Um, or you get to companies who maybe there's a mismatch in their voice, right? They're trying to be really
Mhm.
funny, but maybe they're a funeral home. I don't know. So talk a little bit about how you show up like that, and what thought you should put behind that.
Well, I think that you have to post with intention. So every single time that you show up, there does need to be intention behind it. What's in it for them? What's in it for the people that are seeing this? If and the best, again, I'm just going to stick with Instagram here, Jana. But if someone comes across your Instagram page for the very first time, and it is a collection of dog pictures, food photos, selfies, I mean, they're not going to think that you're a real business. So one of the biggest things is making sure that every person that lands on your Instagram page, they instantly know what you do, who you serve, and why you. And if that's unclear, then you need to go through and kind of archive some of your messages. And with reels, it is a great way to bring awareness around your Instagram page. So that's kind of like your net to bring people in. Now that they're here, if they decide to check out your profile and consider following you, they're going to be looking at your grid and saying, okay, well, she offers X, Y, and Z. I can tell just by looking at the grid of these posts that she gives tips on this and that they offer this service. I'm going to follow them. So your Instagram really is that mini website of what you have to offer and why you. So make sure that it's really clear, that nothing is confusing for people when they land on your page. And this is where Instagram stories are a great place for people to build in that personality factor, because you have the opportunity to show behind the scenes. You have the opportunity to show what a day in the life is like. Uh, so for me, I have two little girls. I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I will show up in my stories kind of giving a little tip, talking about something that I've currently worked on or a podcast that just came out. And then I'll also pop in there and show some pictures of my kids, and say, hey, we're, family vacation in Steamboat, da, 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 da. So I mean, like, there's ways for you still to show a little bit behind the scenes of what it's like to be around you and your business, while still keeping it on brand and Instagram stories. I just love the concept that it's given Instagram, because it's the only people that see your stories are people that already follow you. So it's really just giving them the keys to the back room.
Mm. Um, well, so we talked quite a bit about Instagram, and I guess the other one that those people who are Gen Xers and above are slowly kind of getting on board with is TikTok. So talk a little bit about what the trends are in TikTok, and who are the right people to be on there, and should we be on there?
Yeah, I mean, if you like video, then you should should be on TikTok, and it's it is definitely opened up to a broader audience. It's no longer just the kids that are on there. I mean, I remember when it was Musically, it was full of middle schoolers and maybe some high schoolers, dancing to music videos, and the pandemic blew TikTok up and really gave a lot of the millennials, the geriatric millennials, which I guess is the appropriate term for what I am, but those that are born in 1978 to 19, I think 87, that I guess we're called geriatric millennials. But I know, I wish it was a better term. But we've really kind of taken over TikTok. And so there's a much older audience that is now emerging on TikTok. And if you are comfortable showing up on video, and it doesn't need to always be you dancing and pointing or lip syncing, but it gives you an opportunity to show behind the scenes, how you work. So if, let's say, you have a screen printing business, you can show how you would get a screen printing project done, and then have the finished product of you delivering the box off to the client. I mean, that's a reel right there. So, or I'm sorry, a TikTok video right there. So I think it's a great way for you to get a lot of reach. Their algorithm is very, very smart. You don't need a ton of hashtags. You don't need location tags. It's all built in to their interface on how they get that reach out there. So it's a great way to expand your reach if you are comfortable on video. But I know not all of us are, like yours truly.
Well, for me, I still just struggle what to put, whether it's from a personal perspective or a professional perspective. And I think because I probably put a lot of thought into, well, everything I need to put in there, it has to add value. And I don't know how to add value in this space. Have you come across that? I guess. I mean, I guess other people will probably feel something similar.
Well, and I think that, talking head videos, you giving a short tip is a great way, So if I did one, 3 of my favorite tools to take away the overwhelm of social media. And then I just said 3 tools, and, read more in the comments. So, I mean, it's a way to get in and quickly say what it is that you do, and give a tip, or give value and give advice, while then get out of there. So they don't need to be overly produced. That's the thing that I do love that's come from the whole pandemic, was we saw so many beautifully curated pictures and amazingly done graphics and these well-produced videos. And when we were all of a sudden, now we're fine just seeing someone talk to us from their laundry room. We're fine, seeing someone show up without their makeup on and having a kid walk in. So I think you don't need to overthink these. And if you mess up, then, It's fine. Everyone does. So I do think that it's been kind of a weight from a lot of people's shoulders about having to show up perfectly and thinking that everything needs to be done to perfection when it's just you showed up and your people are going to come into your network, and if they're not your people, then they're not.
Hmm. Is it a no-no to be reusing a lot of your stuff through all the different sites? I mean, if you
It
make a TikTok
is.
video, should you repost elsewhere? Yeah, let's talk
Well,
about cross.
there's a different vibe, I mean, between TikTok and Instagram. And so, I mean, you can repurpose some stuff between platforms, but you never ever want to have that watermark on there. So you'll either want to use a third party software, um, or you will want to save it to your camera roll and then upload it natively to each respective platform. But if if Instagram sees the TikTok watermark and TikTok sees the Instagram watermark, you're going to get pushed lower in the algorithm. You're also going to want to make sure you use that native audio between the both platforms. So if you're using a trending sound from Instagram and you just like, okay, well, I'm just going to download it and upload it over here, it's not going to get that same kind of traction over on TikTok. You have to use the TikTok native audio. So I mean, honestly, it's hard to show up on both of those platforms, even though it is still both short form content. Um, so sorry to be the bearer of bad news on that one.
Yes, you are. You're killing my efficiency because I'm all right, how many times can I reuse the same thing?
I know. Well, and I mean, like, and that's the thing where if you like, so I create videos and I upload them to Facebook because Facebook also allows reels right now, and they're trying to kind of incorporate that short form video on their platform. So I will actually record things through my phone or through a video app on my phone and save it there. Then I will upload it. So I don't do any of the editing and stuff in Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. I do it all through another app, then upload it. So I mean, like, I'm sure that people are listening and they're like, "This sounds like a ton of work," and it's really not. It's not that much work, especially if you're only doing one a week, maybe one every other week. You're still showing up, giving the algorithm, a little taste of what it wants, and then you can show up the ways that you feel more comfortable and more confident. But just trying to do that a couple times a month is going to make a big difference.
Mm, absolutely. Um, what are some of the other, I guess, pitfalls? We talked about not having a strategy. We talked about, you need to be consistent. It doesn't need to necessarily be frequent, but consistent. But what are some of the other things that when you look at different brands out there, you're like, oh, they're doing this completely wrong.
Well, I don't think enough people are paying attention to their bio, and that's platform agnostic. Whatever platform is your jam, give your bio some attention and some love because, again, that's your first impression. If someone comes
Mm,
across your page, that is what they read and say, okay, this person's for me, or oh, this person does. So if someone comes to your page and you do a really funny like dog training video, and then they come to your page and they see that you're a realtor, and be like in maybe Massachusetts, they're not going to follow you because they thought they were going to come there for more dog videos. So
mm,
making sure that you are in alignment with the videos that you're putting out or the content that you're putting out that matches up with what it is that you do. So make sure that your content's in alignment, make sure that your bio is optimized. Again, it all comes back to what you do, who you serve, why you, and that's really going to help people decide, yeah, that's my person right there. And just Jana, I know that we talked a lot about Instagram, so I'm going to stick with that. But in Instagram, you only have 150 characters to
mm.
get all that information out. So it's not that many characters. There's,
No.
I think it's charactercounttool.com. That's where I work on my bio. So that way you're not going to try and figure things out, on actual Instagram. You can use a keyboard and just copy and paste it over there. So it's a great way for you to practice writing your bio to make sure that everything will fit before you go in there and trial and error it, the whole thing up, and then get frustrated and then shut it down and then ignore it for another year.
Nice. Awesome. I agree. Like your bio can, especially like on LinkedIn, you've got that tagline, and what that tagline says can be really critical. And there's actually so much, there's too many experts, I think, in taglines. I have had a few different people be like, oh no, you need to switch it and do this, or it needs to be 10 words, or all of those different things. So it's very I guess confusing, because obviously different things work for different people.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of us, it's hard to navigate through.
No, I agree. And I mean, honestly, one of the things that really helped me was social audio rooms. Because basically every time you join that stage, so like on Clubhouse, it's called a stage. There's LinkedIn audio, there's Fireside, there's all these different social audio apps. But joining those stages, you have to get up there and quickly say what it is that you do and why you can contribute to this conversation. So I think that for those of you that have not joined any social audio rooms yet, uh, download, Clubhouse. Just listen to see kind of how the rooms are run, how people introduce themselves, and think about that for how you would introduce yourself if you were going to join the stage. So that was one of the best tools for me to really kind of get my tagline, so to speak, figured out.
Mm. No, that makes sense. Um, what, yeah, so you were talking about Clubhouse, and maybe go into a little bit about the value of these audio rooms, because, when I got on Clubhouse, I found it a little intimidating myself, and then I, didn't really even see a purpose for me. So let's talk a little bit about the value and who fits best in those.
Yeah, well, and I think that with social audio, it's really kind of the 2.0 of podcasting. It gives you the opportunity to have that live interaction with somebody that you probably never would have met in your entire life. So, I mean, we're on this podcast right now. I have a podcast, but I can't ever actually engage with a listener. So let's say if we were doing this on Clubhouse, someone could raise their hand and say, well, wait a second, let's talk more about the bio, and why blah, blah, blah. And it takes the conversation down a whole new way that you wouldn't have ever really thought about. That's one of the things I love about social audio. And I agree, at the beginning, I got the butterflies in my stomach, and I'm used to being on the microphone. I've got 2 podcasts. I'm a speaker, I'm a former radio journalist, and I would still get nervous before joining the stages. But I think that having those opportunities to join conversations with people that you would never otherwise have the opportunity to speak to for any reason. I mean, because you weren't using the right hashtags, or they live in Dallas and you live in Denver. And I mean, there's so many reasons as to why your paths would never cross. But social audio takes that limitations away. And if you don't want to join the conversation, if you don't feel comfortable hosting a room and having your own space, you can go in there and listen. I do this all the time. So I will go into rooms where my ideal client and customer hang
Mhm.
out, what their struggles are. And guess what? I then go write a blog post on it. And then I create social media posts on it. Maybe I'll try and find an expert to come on my podcast to talk about it. It's a great way to listen, to hear what some of the struggles or what some of the trends are that your ideal client and customer has.
So who is on, like, who are we seeing in these social audio rooms?
It's different for each platform now. And like I said before, Clubhouse was kind of the original. And now there's, Facebook audio rooms, LinkedIn events, there's Fireside, there's Twitter Spaces. And all of these social audio apps have different audiences. So Twitter, I've seen a lot of people in the crypto, NFT, and then breaking news space hosting Twitter Spaces. On Clubhouse, it 100% is conversation driven. So if there is something that's I think there was something about Paris Hilton a few weeks ago, and it was some news about her, and there was a room about it, and everyone just came to talk about it. So I mean, like, it's all conversation driven, and it's not gossipy, but I mean, like, anything that you want to have a conversation with 3 to 6 people on, those are the type of topics that do best on Clubhouse. It can be about entrepreneurship. It can be about medicine. It can be about anything. but as long as it's conversation driven. LinkedIn obviously is for networking. I've noticed a lot of these networking rooms, how to network, how to optimize your profile, how to stand out to headhunters on LinkedIn. Those are the types of rooms that I've seen on LinkedIn Audio. And then Fireside is the Mark Cuban backed social audio app, and it's 100% podcast driven. So right now we could be in a fireside room, and this would be live streaming to Twitch and YouTube. There'd be members of the audience. And once we're done hitting record, those people can then jump up onto the stage, ask their questions. It kind of gives your audience that next level of interaction. So really, whoever's your biggest fans, and they want to have the breaking episode, they want to see it live, they want to be a part of the conversation. That's what Fireside is for. And you get the transcript, you get the audio. I mean, it's a really cool form of kind of like podcasting 2.0.
Okay, I've never heard of Twitch. What is that?
It's for gamers. I know it's for gamers. So there's a lot of people that like play video games, and then other people watch. I don't understand it. I'm a geriatric and millennial, remember? But I guess you go on there and watch other people play video games. So like I remember there was a coworker that I had back when I worked at the TV station, and I was like, he's just watching somebody else play a video game. Why? Like, I thought, like, for me, the whole purpose of video gaming is for me to play. I don't want to watch somebody else play, but apparently a lot of other people do.
Yeah, no, my daughter likes to watch people game as well, and then she's like, I want to make YouTube videos about me gaming, and I'm just like, everybody does that. So my message to her was, well, that's fine, but you have to find a different angle. You can't just do what everybody else is doing. Why does somebody want to watch you game? What are you gonna do to make it different?
Yeah, for real. And I mean, like, without taking this down a whole different podcast episode, but I do feel like that's like the evolution of the internet. Like, that's how social media is going to be, is in this alternate reality sort of through gaming. So I do see a melding of social media and gaming really happening soon.
And I guess, it is a little off topic, but I'm really curious about like the metaverse and that, in the sense that, so, and I can't remember if I've mentioned this on the podcast yet or not, but, you think about office interactions and being able to sit next to somebody and engage and collaborate, especially like, we do project management. And so there's a lot of energy that you get from being in the same room and solving a problem. It's true when you're, designing, engineering things, there's value in being co-located. And then obviously in the pandemic, we've learned to work remotely, and it's great. And everybody says, oh, this should be the future. But I think we're going to find that there's we're losing out on some real key collaboration elements, and that we're going to find some happy medium. But what I'm really curious about is whether or not the metaverse could bring some of that back, where we can all
this is a whole another episode, because I have a lot to say. I actually am working on a couple NFT projects. And I love this topic. And I do think it's right now we are, we're still. So do you remember at the time when we were like, why would I want to have a phone that, had my camera on it? I like it, or had my music on it. What am I going to do with my iPod then? That's silly. Oh, what if I lose my phone and I've lost my music? But I mean, now it's, who has an iPod? I mean, like, who walks around with a digital camera? I mean, like, these, we're at the inception phase of everything, and it's going to become, I think it's coming, whether we like it or not. So it makes sense to pay attention to it, because it's coming. And exactly like what you said, like, okay, well, let's do this podcast. Let's throw on our VR Oculus goggles, and I can sit in, we can sit in the studio together, and we won't see me sitting here in my office and you sitting, at your office. We're going to see, it's going to look to us like we're sitting in a studio together having this conversation, and I could reach out and touch you. And I think it's coming, and it's coming sooner than a lot of people realize.
Well, I just can't wait to have whiteboards again that we can all. That's what I'm looking forward to. But yeah, but I think, I guess tying it back to social media, it's all about understanding, always watching out for the trends. And yeah, there's always new things coming, and not everything's going to stick. There's definitely been social media sites that's been launched that haven't stick, but you can see overall trends. And to be that person 10 years ago that's like, I'm not going to be on social media, well, you're missing the trend. And if you're that person now
Yeah.
that's like, I'm never going to go do the metaverse, well, once again, you're missing a trend.
Yep.
And it's whether or not you're going to get on the forefront, or you're going to be drug along in the end.
Yeah, exactly. No, I 100% agree. And I think that the pandemic definitely sped a lot of these technology changes up. And,
Mm,
when billionaires are investing a lot of their money into new technology, you have to pay attention because it's going to be
mm.
coming here soon.
It's a good point. Well, Katie, this has been a fascinating conversation. Before we go, I'd love for you to kind of give your top tips to our audience.
Pay attention to your bio, post consistently with a strategy, and well, I mean, I wasn't going to say this tip, but I feel like our conversation definitely went that way. But don't think that NFTs, this metaverse, AR, that it's that far away, because it's going to be here before you know it. So start trying to find people that you resonate with, that you can learn from. I'm not saying to go and buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin, but I'm saying just start paying attention, because it will be here before you know it.
Great. You're 100% correct, Katie. Well, where can people find out more about you, find your podcast, find out about your organization?
Yeah, so I'm on social media, but if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can find me at Katie Brinkley, or on Instagram at I am Katie Brinkley. And then I have a podcast too, so check it out. It's called Rocky Mountain Marketing. And thanks so much for having me, Jana. This was so much fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you could join us. And to our audience, until next time, keep your organizations healthy. Hey!